Welcome back to Cop to Corporate. I am Sammy T, your podcast host. I am thrilled today to have Justin Jackson with us. Justin's out in Atlanta. He was an Atlanta police officer and now works in the corporate world for Visa as a security manager. So Justin, thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the show.
Hey, I'm glad to be here. Thanks, Sammy.
Yeah, so tell us about your journey from Cop to Corporate.
A loaded statement of my journey from cop to corporate. Let's see. So I was born in Piedmont Hospital in the city of Atlanta in 1990. And from there, I just, born and raised Atlantan, went through the Atlanta public school systems, went to Georgia State University twice. Just a brief overview. And then I got into the law enforcement service, like, oh, okay, I think I can do this. I want to do this. APD came up after a brief stint with the U.S. Marshals internship with the Northern District of Georgia. And that's when it became a reality for me that law enforcement would be the career path. So there's a lot of context that we're going to glaze over through all of that, because this all does contribute to what makes me and makes my transition unique. But for my transition, I would say I started with the APD in 2013. As soon as I graduated from Georgia State with my undergraduate degree in political science, I knew I wanted to join some type of law enforcement agency. I wanted to go to the U.S. Marshal Service. However, they were in a hiring freeze federally, and just like everything else, if I didn't have the military service to check the box and get that easy access to the federal side, a couple of my mentors from that internship say, hey, you should go to Atlanta. Like, you'll get a bunch of experience real quick in Atlanta. Like, you can probably get 10 years worth of experience in 2. That was the quote. And so I took that to heart, and I was just like, you know what? I didn't want to be like a city cop or anything like that. And it's more dangerous and all the different things. I hadn't considered it, but I decided, why not? I want to ultimately end up as a deputy U.S. Marshal and work for you all. Why not bolster my resume while I'm doing it, get paid for it? I need a job anyway. I'm a new grad. So went out and applied, went through the entire recruiting process. That next year, I was swearing in, February 21st of 2014, I was swearing in. Just about a year to the day that I went in for my initial interview. So it was a good process. But for me, I started in Zone 6 in East Atlanta, which was just basically patrol, did morning watch for a time, about 6 months. I did some field training prior on the crime suppressing unit called the Boulevard Unit, which just focused on the violent crime interdiction in the Boulevard corridor. You got Parkway Drive, Ponce Leon Avenue, Edgewood, Auburn Avenue, that area. And so I learned a bit more than my classmates in field training because I was assigned to that group. So it wasn't just traffic accidents and directing traffic and the things that come with basic 911 calls. So I had a little bit more there. From there, I spent about 5 years at that point in that world where we can do whatever we really wanted to do. If it was gangs, we did gangs. If it was narcotics, we did narcotics. If it was firearms, I think our unit was, at the time, we probably got the most guns off the street at one time, maybe 2015, 2014, in that area. So we were really working. But I based all of my training and experience at the time. My father's a former firefighter. He'd say, hey, man, if you're going to do the policing thing, you're going to have to take your training seriously, because he was 30-year firefighter, captain with Gwinnett County Fire Services. And even though I didn't go that route, he knew I would need it, and that my life will be in better hands if I was actually trained and up for the task. So I took whatever training I could get, Federal Law Enforcement Training Center in Glencoe, anything I could probably get my hands on, I tried to apply for, and I got it when it came to like high-risk warrant service, some tactical field operations course, things that would get me to that next level so I could have a pristine resume for the U.S. Marshals. That would never come to fruition, but at least I tried. At least I tried to make it there.
Your resume still looks amazing.
It does. I didn't know it would translate to the corporate world, but it does. But all of these were just building blocks at the time. I decided after about 5 years in, I needed to continue my education and get my master's degree if I were going to stay with APD, because I started to realize as life goes on, hey, I'm about to get married. My son is on the way. I started thinking about those things, and I don't know. Again, federal service was becoming more and more of a pipe dream for me, but I started becoming a little more real and say, hey, would a career with a APD look like? And let me follow that track. So I went back to school to get my master's in public administration with a concentration in management and finance, so I could remain versatile when I had to step into more leadership roles down the line. So that was kind of the mindset behind that. Unfortunately, well, I made before I get into 2020, everything that was 2020, COVID, riots, and all the things. Um, I was promoted to detective after testing and going through our boards and everything to get that promotion. I made it to the major crimes unit, and I was assigned to GAT, which is our gun assault unit, investigating all non-fatal shootings in the city. So we were a bridge away from homicide. I was happy to leave the homicide with homicide and take on the cases where the victim still lived and breathed. Homicide was a bridge too far for me, but it was a great experience, and you got to do a lot with the incident command, managing the crisis, managing the investigations, making sure you don't mess up a case, because we got real victims out here in some cases. So that was really great experience on that end. So all of that pretty much led up to 2020, and that was a lot in about a 7-year period of my beginning as a recruit to becoming a detective and doing the things I was doing. To 2020, the world stopped. COVID took everybody out. We got what lockdowns, mandatory lockdowns, shelter in place, essential personnel coming in, working crazy shifts. And then to add insult to injury, we had all of the civil unrest as a result of some actions around the country that really took I guess a crossroads journey for me, because you started having to make real life decisions really quickly when it comes to like, how does this impact my family and my future? The civil unrest at the time, again, my wife was pregnant with our second child around April of 2020, and again, all of those incidents that occur across the nation. I think it was about 3 of them that really had the nation in an uproar. Again, compounded with the COVID lockdowns and things of that nature. Everybody was like at a top tier level of unrest, and that came to a head in about May or June, like in the summer months, actually. Yeah, about this time, it was probably quieting down a bit 4 years ago. But all of that to say is, I just looked at what was going on. My city's burning down. I love my city. City I fought for, bled for, I've lived in, that I wanted to raise my children, my family in, is now burning before my eyes. And I'm seeing good officers left and right leaving the department, people that dedicated 15, 20 years of service to them. It started to really impact us, because I'm seeing like great guys, like why are y'all moving, why are y'all leaving? But with that, it was important for me to take a step back and look and see my level of ambition, my level of readiness and training for what I provide in the city. I could see myself in the same positions that any of these officers have been in or were in, and would I be willing to bet my entire livelihood and that of my family on 30 seconds in the city of Atlanta on the streets when anything could happen? It's unpredictable, honestly. Well, I would be willing to bet that. I was not. My wife wasn't. She said, hey, you got your master's now, babe. Got to make a decision. And we did. We ended up leaving, leveraged my career so far into a private security gig at one of my extra jobs. Is a lot of us work extra hours with that pay higher at the time. I ended up leveraging that and becoming in-house security director for a small private school that I was leading at the time. I was working at the time, and that's where it started. And 2 years later, get a couple certifications, hone my craft a bit more, try to identify the things that the city of Atlanta didn't teach me about the private sector. And I'm at Visa now, so everything was pretty quick. That's a long summary, about a 10-minute summary, but there's a lot of context to dig into.
It sounds like this is a pattern with a lot of the people that I talk to on the podcast is that you were preparing for your career outside of local law enforcement way before you made that decision to leave. You were taking the classes, you were doing everything you could to immerse yourself in something outside of that world, even though it didn't turn out how you thought that it would at first. So, would you say that that was a really big part of making your transition out of law enforcement easier?
Yes, absolutely. It's kind of twofold because it was easier and harder. Because again, I'm a, maybe you call me green, call me young. I started when I was what, 21, 22, in that range. And so I had dreams like, yeah, this federal career is going to take off. APD is going to set me up very well. I'm going to get everything I can. So I'm the best candidate and go to FLETC and become the best deputy U.S. Marshal you could find. After I made the decision, again, I'm stacking all those, I guess, classes and courses, the experience with the training that I was involved in and the teams that I was able to get on with Atlanta. All of that experience was for that specific purpose. So that did prepare me to have the mindset to leave. But as I saw that dream kind of again fading down as life continued, because I'm not going to put my life on hold for something that might not come to fruition, getting married, having kids, becoming a family man, slowing down a tick. It was important for me to entertain what life will look like beyond that. And in that decision making, you kind of flip the switch and say, no, this is home. I'm going to grow where I'm planted. And it made it a little bit hard for me to go because I had invested, I had already committed to the decision that I would go the, command staff track. Again, kid from Atlanta, Black kid from Atlanta can easily rise through the ranks in the city of Atlanta Police Department where they're screaming for, continued representation. And we want to continue to give that to them. I care about the city more than most. And again, was willing to put my life on the line and my well-being, my family's well-being on the line for that goal, because again, I love the city. I love contributing to it. But that just didn't happen. So preparing in that way, again, I was ready to go. But at the same time, after I made the decision to stay and commit to the city of Atlanta, that's what made it that much harder to go. But sometimes people take the decision out of your side. Now I'm gone. If y'all going to continue to do this, and that's what ultimately happened.
You said that you got your first job outside of Atlanta PD because you had been working at it beforehand. So, what would you suggest for cops that are like, they're thinking about leaving, they don't know what to do, they don't have that extra job? Where do they start?
So I would start in a place where even if your services for free, or in a sense, say like places of worship are huge nowadays. Some people sing in the choir to give back to the church. I dedicate my time to security team, so people can sing in the choir, and whatever I can do to uphold that posture that we have at our church. I would say just find your fit in something like that. If it's not an extra job, again, just it's easy to say, hey, I'm an off-duty officer. If you need me to just come to church armed or whatever, like, hey, I'm sworn, this is my jurisdiction, I can do X, Y, and Z, make sure we're protected, because we do see these things going on where our physical security operations need to be ramped up, and start there. Just again, filling that gap, filling that void. For me, the extra job was a gap that was needed because this school had a security team that was built on Atlanta police officers. And as I worked that job, the managers started retiring and retiring. Ultimately, I became the coordinator of that entire extra job or part-time, and was doing the scheduling, making sure the money was right, negotiating the fees for the officers. And I was like, I can do this in-house. Like, this is nothing. I don't need to go out and send my application out. I already work here. Let me draft a proposal real quick and send it to the director of operations and see what they think for keeping some in-house talent. So you just gotta, I would say, seize the opportunity if one exists, because some people just make their own path. They make their own luck. We're not waiting on the next opening. Take a quick survey of what's around you, and then fill the gap. That's what it would allow me to do. And beyond that, once I got the job and everything was fine, I was like, hey, now that I'm here, how can I improve as a security professional? That's where your ASIS international memberships come into play. That's where the standards and best practices are learned. That's where you maybe join ATAP and learn from other professionals in these corporate security spaces, private security spaces, and really start to learn about how to conduct risk assessments, how to use quantitative and qualitative data to make a justification for buying some type of physical security operations platform, any type of thing that can create to build a more robust security posture for the sites. That's kind of what I dedicated my time to. It's just like now that I'm here, I got to become an expert at it so we can continue to refine because there are gaps here and no one's looking for it, honestly. Anybody in the security world knows like there might be someone that's assigned a security task or function in your organization, but they don't know what they're doing. They have no idea, at least from the police background. You're able to use some quick decision making that you might have honed from the experience on the street to actual application in a strategic environment where we can build out a plan according to like, you know, basic incident command structures, things of that nature.
Another thing you mentioned was having your family, and you've got your two kids. And we haven't really talked much about this on Cop to Corporate, but how has having support outside of law enforcement, like your family or your friends, made it easier for you to leave and start something new?
For me, it's God, family, country, or your duty. And family is that number two rung. You have to take care of your family. If things aren't getting, if needs aren't being met at home, you can't go out and operate. Even as a police officer on the street, you can't do your job if things at home aren't right. And for me, I care about their well-being. I want to raise my kids because they have to grow up in a crazy. If I'm growing up in a crazy generation, and my father's telling me like, I don't know how you're raising kids right now. It's crazy these days. Now that I have more responsibilities and I'm a steward of two children and a wife to take care of at home, I want to make sure I'm available for them. And they supported me when I was there, but also I wanted to make sure I recognize and acknowledge my role as the head of the household to be there for them and probably make some changes that would put us out better in the long run.
So, what are some, say, if you could say three things for cops that have left or want to leave that you would say, this is what you should do, this is what's going to help you to make a successful transition to the private sector, civilian, corporate, whatever it is?
For me, it's first of all, you got to have a plan. Um, my exit was hasty. You know, I made it within maybe 1 month of making the decision to leave. I was gone. It was very quick. I had to get out, and I had to make a path forward immediately because the circumstances called for it. You know, it was just one of those things where I gotta go. Good guys are leaving. Good officers, good investigators, top to bottom, good command staff people are leaving. I gotta make my exit now because there's no time like the present. But it often works out better if you can plan a little bit. Those officers that might find themselves in even on the wides doing crime analysis, supervisors at any level, you can truly leave your department once you've acquired enough training to just solidify your experience from the police perspective, but also see how those things, if you plan about it, if you plan for it, you can use that experience and the opportunities that your police background provides, like interfacing with city council folks and private business owners, the residents, like talking in those teams and developing special strategies and projects for a new entertainment district, talking about what security needs are there, because that's physical security that helps you talk about your security operations and leverage that. If you're using new technology, Atlanta has a bunch of cameras all over the city, and they have a video integration system that is quite robust. The teams that are on those guys that work that's nothing different from a global security operations center. Calling out things. Hey, this is what's going on right now. Here's some real-time crime prevention centers. All of that experience, you really have a unique opportunity to leverage that once you talk about going into the corporate space. So definitely have a plan. Secondly is get some form of education. Never stop learning. It's important that we for everything that we are, we like to have that S on our chest up under the badge, up under the shirt, uniform shirt, but we want to understand that we do have limitations. One of mine early on I found is like the technical aspect of security. So I'm talking the cyber realms, the physical security technologies that were available. I wanted to make sure that I was well versed and had a good understanding if I was going to be managing these platforms and managing like new policies as it pertains to those things. So start looking at little certifications you can get here and there. Sometimes even your department will pay for them. Even any training that your department will pay for, take it immediately, because that is again one more level or certification saying that you have that level of expertise or knowledge that you can manage situations where this comes into play. For example, I just got a cybersecurity certification, the Security Plus of CompTIA, which is a pretty good, solid foundation for what cybersecurity is and how to get into those cybersecurity operation centers. So, and excuse me, if I may, the physical security side and the cybersecurity side, it seems like one budget is quite higher than the other with these companies. So I would definitely say, I know people say they're not technical, they're not technical. Well, you're not until you are. So keep trying, keep training. In the same way we practice, maybe we should practice more than just once a year on our firearms qualifications. We should definitely sharpen the tools in our tool belt and identify the gaps on the tool belt, because you want to make sure you have what you need. You can't just jump to one force option, and it applies with your education as well. And finally, I just would say be confident, be bold in what it is you're doing. Don't let someone tell you that you're too young to make the change. You don't have enough experience. You can't let like corporate Karen say they know everything about security and dictate to you what your job's going to be. You stand on the confidence that is your experience, that what you have is enough, what you have is sufficient, and you're continue to hone your skills more and more each day. So I would just keep that confidence that you have once you first arrive on scene. Like, hey, this is my scene. I'm confident. I know what I'm doing, and I'm projecting this because this is what it is. And once you maintain that authority in that sector, then that means your performance. You don't have to worry about what somebody else is thinking about you. Just you keep that confidence, keep working diligently, and let the work speak for itself.
Justin, you are so articulate, and that's fantastic advice. So thank you so much for coming on here. We really appreciate it. Is there anything else that you'd like to share that you think would help anybody?
Absolutely. My final point is reach out to if those on LinkedIn. I shared with Sammy earlier before we started recording, like, hey, I was new in the game, just trying to figure it out when I first left the department. How do I do these things? The people that you follow on LinkedIn, the personalities, don't feel like you can't reach out to us and schedule one-on. I do one-on-ones with people that reach out to me all the time. Hey, how did you do it? This is what I have in front of me. Is this enough? How can I leverage this opportunity? Or do you have any opportunities that might be good for me? You never know until you ask. So don't feel free to reach out. At least to me, I know I was able to reach out to some that will provide that insight. And you can also rely on like the law enforcement liaison community on ACES International. They can help. Their local ACES chapters will definitely help with any type of transitions that you need, because they have mentors in place, so we can continue to keep that security industry thriving.
Thank you so much for coming on to Cop to Corporate.
Thank you so much. It was my pleasure.